Welcome to Of the Publishing Persuasion, a podcast where my friend Melanie Schubert and I talk all about writing and the pursuit of publishing, along with some of our greatest friends and idols. So we are just so lucky to have met so many amazing writers and follow along in their own journeys and to see their successes. And for me personally, it's so fun to watch my girl Melanie and all the things that she does, all the books that she writes. Melanie, how are you today?
I'm good. You're making me blush. But I could not agree more about how rewarding it is watching our friends succeed. And I think every time we see something awesome happen for a friend, I just feel so proud of our community and so grateful that we found people who cheer each other on and celebrate all the successes because, yeah, it is, as we often discuss, a very turbulent, wild, what are our usual words? We've got some catchphrase words that we love to use for the writing journey.
Yeah, it's torturous.
I'm also realizing that at least once per episode, we say something grand and sweeping like, because that's the thing, that's the one thing. Every time it's slightly different, but we're adding to our one things every time. So I'm good. I had a random project jump me by surprise. So I've started this adult paranormal rom-com, which has my whole heart already, and it really surprised me. I didn't think I'd feel like writing something after Soul Swap, but it's good because querying is tough. Querying is a long way, and having something else, as I always say, to keep you occupied just takes the weight off it.
You know? Yes, absolutely. And I'm so excited just reading your first chapter. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what you need to be doing right at this moment. Like, give it to me now. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this leads you. I love that you're doing an adult paranormal rom-com. I think it's gonna be just so cute and funny and like break your heart. All of the good things.
I hope
that I love.
I still love my YA. I still want to go back to YA at some point, but right now, adult rom-coms are calling with paranormal beasties. So how about you? How have you been?
I've been good. I've just been like not necessarily writing anything, but I'm writing, like working on some synopses. I
think that's it. Synopses.
I'm working on those.
Our daily struggle as writers. You'd be surprised though how many words. This is so embarrassing to admit, but there are so many words that my friends correct me on when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I thought I knew how to say it, but I do not. I do not know how to say it.
No, that happens all the time.
I think that's great. And a lot of times what I do is just write a synopsis if I've had an idea. And that's what I did with this, with Beyond Love. That's what I did with that. And it kind of helps you feel if it's got any guts to it.
Yeah.
You like write that basic synopsis. You're like, oh yeah, we've got a story here. Or you're like, not sure where I'm headed with that.
No, and I think that's going to be my new thing. Like, I think I'm going to write out a synopsis. I don't care how long it's going to be, lengthwise, whatever. I'm just going to write this sloppy synopsis. And like you said, just see if anything comes out of it. And so I'm still working on just one at the moment. And I'm at like page 5 of this bad boy. But I'm learning so much about the book that I didn't know. So I think
page 5 of your
really
synopsis.
Great idea. Yeah.
I love that. But no, it's very smart. It's like instead of writing like a messy first draft, which is fine, but you're writing a messy synopsis, which is so much easier to manage, and you can see your plot points and ideas just laid out over 5 or 10 pages, even if it goes to 10 pages.
Yeah.
That's very easy to like pick apart. Whereas if you just jumped into the first draft and did that, you might get to a point where you're just like, what you're realizing now when you look and you're like, hang on, where was I going with that?
Yeah. And that's what I think I've been doing. I've been getting like forcing myself through this giant first draft and not knowing where I'm going. So I'm like, why don't I just do a synopsis and save myself the trouble? So yeah, it's been fun. But But I think let's get right into introducing Liselle Sambury.
Yes, I have her book here, her amazing book, Bloodlike Magic.
Bloodlike Magic, baby. She is a fantastic writer. I'm so excited to have her. She's a YouTube star.
Yes, she is a YouTube star.
Yeah, she's all over the place, and she's got books. She's got the sequel coming out, and another book, which we have to talk to her about because it sounds so good. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to Liselle and see and hear and learn from the master.
Me too. And once again, I'm just like, I can't believe we got her.
I know.
Persuasion. That's all you. Yeah. You are great at booking our guests. So yes, let's get her on because I cannot wait to hear about her journey. Why are you laughing at me?
I don't know. I just got excited all of a sudden. I don't know.
I love it. Let's get her on.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I started. The video popped up and I was like, oh wait, no.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. Welcome to Of the Publishing Persuasion episode 9.
Yeah, I think so. We are so excited to have you, Liselle. Like we were over here fangirling on the side, just like we're gonna talk to her and just so excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you're excited. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited.
Thank you. Yes. Let's get right into it because I feel like we're going to chat so much and then we'll miss out on the questions that we're dying to know.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So first I want to say huge congratulations on all of your success. I just finished reading Bloodlike Magic and was just like, okay, well, where's the second one right now? So it's amazing to watch you throughout the years just come up and become this beautiful, amazing, talented woman. And it's amazing. So I want to take you back to the very beginning. What got you started? What made you want to start writing?
Yeah, so less happy fuzzy reason, but I was actually being bullied in middle school. So, I would listen to some Trapped. I don't know if that's too early 2000s for people.
No, I loved Trapped.
I would listen to them walking home, and I'd get home and I'd open a notebook and I would start writing. And when I was finished writing everything, I felt better. I had forgotten about, things that had been said to me. And I just kind of got lost in the words. And so it was really a pure escapism for me.
Man, kids scare me sometimes. Bully kids scare me. You just expect kids to be nice and sweet and open-minded, and they're not. Some of them are scary.
No, they're definitely not. And it was so funny because I was being bullied for being fat and the kid bullying me was also fat. And I was just like, wow, this is just 100% self-hatred coming out.
That's it. Yeah. Well, that's what they always say, right? Hurting people hurt people. And I mean, it's great that you found an outlet and it became almost I always say it for myself, writing is kind of like therapy in a way, it's getting all of this crap out of you, 100%. The anger, the hurt. I mean, it's just this magical thing and how powerful that it turned from such a bad experience to now here you are. So
yeah, exactly. It was expression that morphed into I actually really like this and I'd like to continue doing this and going forward with it. Yeah, for sure.
And you are a powerful writer. I just have to say that those pages just drew me in and blew me out of the water. And I was like, what? It wasn't what I was expecting. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was just like, wow, not expecting that. And these girls are amazing. They are fire and your writing is fire. So congratulations. I have no doubt that you worked so bloody hard on this and every word is in its, you know, as a writer, there's like the moment when every sentence sings. And I feel like every sentence sings in this book.
Oh, thank you so much.
I agree. Now, was Bloodlike Magic the first like full novel that you wrote?
So Bloodlike Magic was actually the third novel that I wrote. So the first book I wrote when I was 16, it was very transparently a Twilight ripoff. But at the time, me being 16 years old, I thought I was improving upon the original work. I felt I was giving the werewolves their due. They were neglected in the novels, and I was giving the werewolves a chance to shine.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. So obviously you were Team Jacob.
You know what? It's funny. I was actually Team Edward.
Okay.
But I felt for Jacob, and I thought the wolves were cooler. I kind of just wished Edward was a werewolf, but he wasn't. But I felt for Jacob, though. Even as a teenager, the baby thing was weird for me.
Yeah.
And that kind of lost him some points. It lost him some team points that he already didn't have. But I'm still very what is the word I'm looking for? Inspired to create my own werewolf world. And so that was what the first novel was. So I started writing it when I was 16 and I finished when I was 18 in my first year of university. I did not do any research. I queried 4 agents very quickly with very little understanding of how querying worked. Nobody responded to me. I was crushed. I was like, well, that's it. And just kind of busy with university. So I didn't end up writing another book until I was 22 because I was working. And I realized the great thing about when you're working is you don't have homework and you suddenly have all this spare time that can be filled with things. And I was like, oh yeah, I could like read books and like write and stuff. And at the time I kind of had a job that I was like a body for the phone mostly. So I could also do some writing there. And then I wrote my second book, which then I later realized was deeply problematic. But at the time I was chugging along on it. I think that's the thing about writing. It's like such a journey of stories. Like I'm very glad that this was the book that got published. I think I would have wanted to dig myself a shallow grave. With any of the other books that came before had been my debut. But yeah, Bloodlike Magic was definitely a great one to go with. And that was my third novel that I wrote shortly after finishing my second one, because when I wrote my second one, that's when I was really gung-ho about like, I want to become a writer. I joined like the writing community on Twitter. I was effectively learning about querying and literary agents and how the industry worked, because I was actually interacting and talking with people who were also querying and like trying to find an agent or who had found an agent and learning from them and things like that. I was part of a community properly, whereas before I'd kind of just like Googled a couple things and then decided that I knew everything because, you know, as it goes for some 18-year-olds.
It's very relatable. It's relatable. And actually one of your YouTube videos, you touch on that, and I love the expression baby writer, like the baby writer stage. And I think we've all been there. Like Angela and I have talked about that before, like the lofty hopes and like you really do think you're going to be the next J.K. Rowling when you like start out, and you do like pick it apart and you're like, I can write this a different way, or like I can give these wolves their true story. It is like that. And I don't know where that comes from, because at the same time, there's this like crushing self-doubt with the baby writer brain. But it's definitely a journey I think a lot of us go on. And I love to give that airtime, that it's kind of a normal starting point to kind of have to like humble ourselves. For me, that's what I've had to learn. I'm like simultaneously more and less sure of myself now after all the leveling up and everything I've done. Like I know my craft is better, but I'm also more realistic about the industry. And it's a journey.
Yeah, it really is a journey. Like you have to, it's the baby writer state is this weird mix of like huge confidence, like overconfidence, like nobody said you should have that much confidence.
Right.
Then also this weird sidebar of like thinking that you're terrible and you'll never be able to achieve this thing. It is a very weird stage, and it's like completely irrelevant of age. It is just a state of mind.
Yes, absolutely. That's the truth. Because I wasn't a baby when I started writing, but no, I think one of the things that you said that really just stuck with me right now is, it's kind of like each book, like you're learning right through each book, and each book you almost feel like this is the one. But it's like I feel like now, because I wrote a book before this one, but I wasn't ready yet. It's almost like, you're learning and growing, and maybe that book that you think is it, you're thinking that's the one, it's not right yet. And so like learning to put it down and work on something new, to try something new until like the universe says this is the one. And like I think about like my first novel, that being my debut, and I'm like, holy shit, like that would have been a train wreck, right? But like you learned and you grew, and Blood Like Magic became your debut, and thank the Lord, because it's a great book.
Yeah, no, and that's so 100% true, because every single book, it's true. I thought I was like, this is the perfect book. This is the one for the world, and to show everyone that this is how great of a writer I am. And it was like, oh yeah, in hindsight, not so much those first two, but definitely this third one. So that's great.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So a lot of our listeners are Pitch Wars hopefuls or Pitch Wars alumni. And one of the ways I originally found you was your pod, that time I cried about Pitch Wars. I love that episode, not the pod, the YouTube. It's YouTube. Is it on podcast as well, your channel?
No, I don't know how to do podcasting things, and I'm too lazy to learn.
Well, your YouTube channel is going off. So going on. It's going on, guys.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love that episode. And I just think those topics are so relevant, and so like the me of a few years ago needed to hear that so desperately, because Pitch Wars is not the only way. These competitions, because I was the same as you, I got really in the mindset of like, I have to get into this, and the first year I didn't, and you literally feel like your career is going to end. So tell us a little bit about that journey for you, because I find that all very fascinating, and I think our listeners will really feel seen by that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I had applied to Pitch Wars, I want to say 3 times, and I feel like this was not even the last time. I think this was the second time that I had applied, but I got so gung-ho. That was with my second novel, which I did not know was problematic yet. And I just felt like it was the book. And I got so entrenched in the Pitch Wars community. I was on the Facebook group. I had like met beta readers and CPs off of Pitch Wars. I was watching all of their YouTube live shows. I was following all the tweets. I was participating in the mentor chats. I was like so hyper involved. And I had gotten full requests. I got multiple full requests, which like, I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the time. And I just gotten so entrenched, and I very much felt like this was a stepping stone in publishing. I felt like if I got into Pitch Wars, then it meant, okay, now I'm good enough to get an agent. And now I'm and if I get an agent, if I'm in Pitch Wars, obviously I'm going to sell my book. Doesn't everybody in Pitch Wars sell their book immediately, which is not even the truth?
No.
But I felt that if I got into Pitch Wars, it would be like this holy grail, and all these doors would open to me, and my publishing journey would suddenly be so smooth sailing and simple, and that all I needed to do was get into Pitch Wars, and my dream of being a published author would come true. And if I didn't get to Pitch Wars, then I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't going to get anything. And so I was watching that live show where they were, they were just chatting or whatever, and people were speculating in all the side, group chats of like, they're going to post the listings early and all of that. And then they did post it, and I looked at it and I didn't see my name, and I read again because of course you read it one more time just in case you missed it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not there. And I just burst into tears. I just felt like this is it. This is it. I'm not able to get into pictures. This book isn't going to go anywhere. I'm never going to become an author. I'm never going to be good enough. If I can't get into this pitch contest, then why would an agent want my book? Why would my book get sold? Why would any of that happen for me if I can't get into pitch wars? And like, how old was I then? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure I looked it up for the video and then immediately forgot, but I want to say 23, 24, something like that. And I'm 30 now, so like it's a lot of hindsight, but it was super crushing at the time. I really felt like that was it, and like that book was going to go nowhere, and I had worked on it for so long, and I'd been querying on and off, and it was just like, it was super crushing. But now in the future, having like, I got my agent through cold querying. I did eventually get into a mentorship contest. I was in Rev Pit, which was really, really helpful for me. But yeah, there wasn't like an agent showcase. So I went and I did like a Pit Mad that day. And the agent that I ended up signing with, Christy Hunter at the Night Agency, was an agent I cold queried with like no pitch contest, no mentorship contest, insider thing. I just like cold queried her. And she ended up being the perfect agent for me. And now having, I've done 2 rounds of Avengers of Color, that mentorship. I've done 1 round of being an author mentor match mentor. And I feel like now, having done all that, I came to this, moment where I was like, oh, it's like a CP that's more experienced than me. And I was like, but I have CPs that are more experienced than me outside of this entire thing. And I probably would have been fine if I hadn't gone into Rev Pit just based on, continuing to get CPs. And I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. And it's even more to me, when I have friends that are like, oh, I'm gonna submit to Author Mentor Match. And they were like, oh, I'm trying to find beta readers. And I was like, oh, well, I'll beta read it. I'll CP for you. And they were like, okay. And they were like, man, I'm kind of worried about, like Author Mentor Match. And I was like, I'm a mentor in that. I was like, I'm doing the same thing. Like, it literally doesn't matter if you don't. I was like, I'm fulfilling the same function. But in that case, they were like a thriller writer. So I was like, you probably want someone that like writes thrillers, which I didn't at the time. And so, all those sorts of situations, I was like, oh yeah, you can get the exact same experience of a mentor having an experienced CP. And the great thing about the mentorship is that you don't have to search for that person. You get that person. If you don't have those connections, you can find that person, but you can also get a great experience just with critique partners, and having other people read your work. And tons of people don't get into pitch wars, don't get into AMM, don't get into any mentorship contest, and still get agents and still publish books. And more of them do that than people that do get into the contest. So it's just like, it's the community, right? You're in Twitter and you're 100%. Seeing all that happening. So you think, well, that's the entire world, but actually the entire world is so much more than that.
100%.
Yes. I love that you said that, honestly, because I know like Pitch Wars, AMM, like gets all this, razzle dazzle about it. And, like it was a great experience, but at the end of the day, you're right. Like Margie Fuston was my mentor and I would die for her. And I will ask her to be like, look at every single one of my books from now on, but I could have found her some other way, maybe stalking a little bit, but like you can go into critique partner groups and find these perfectly capable, amazing people that are willing to like dig in and sink into your books. And, it doesn't have to be through some sort of mentorship program. It can just be you doing the work and finding somebody or making friends. Like, it really is about the freaking community. And I love the writing community like to death, because, you know, had I not made the friends that I made throughout the years, I probably would have quit. But I just love like talking about writing. I love like helping people and talking about, you know, like projects together. I think that to me has given me such like a community. I mean, that's what it is, but like, you know, it just has given me friends.
Like a safety net to like keep
Yeah.
a cheer squad to keep going and to hold you accountable. And I think that that baby writer brain that we talk about, if you're just working on your own, that's what these programs help pull apart. Like this broken image we have coming into it. But I think you can find that. You can definitely find that. I definitely found that before Pitch Wars in some of my critique partners and stuff. It's just the right people. And I think the mentorships have kind of handpicked some of those already, but it's by no means the only way you can find that. And sometimes people don't even get along with their mentors, and they don't. There's plenty of stories where people haven't gotten along, they haven't gotten what they hoped out of it, and they're devastated, you know, like, because they put so much in what was going to happen from this competition. And I think in the end, it comes down to you as a person and your drive and your desire to bring these books into the world and your commitment to your craft, because all the rest is just part of the journey, not the be all and end all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of value in finding great CPs, because those are people that you can send your work to continuously and you can keep on that relationship. With a mentorship, it's not necessarily the case. Like, your mentor may have many obligations, many book deals, contracts, things like that. They may not be able to read your work in that way. Whereas like someone who's like also in the query trenches with you, or who is also getting ready to query or things like that, you know, you guys are both doing the same thing. And so you kind of have a bit more time to be devoted to each other in that way. So yeah, there are big benefits to it. And I totally agree, Angela. Like, if I like, the reason that I stuck with writing so well when I was 22 versus when I was 18 was because I was part of the writing community, and I was making friends that were writing, and I was talking about things with them, and I was forming connections. And I was with groups of people where we were all striving for that similar thing, and we were talking, we were connecting. And so I continuously strived for that versus, you know, when I was 18, all of my friends we were in our first year of university and nobody was really writing. We were doing schoolwork and we were like trying to be social and things like that. And so it just like, it wasn't a priority to people around me. And so it wasn't really my priority. Versus in the writing community, it's very different. People are very committed, and it's really amazing to me, like all these people that I knew in earlier stages that I've come up with are all people, you know, that have like progressed in the writing community as well. And we've like gotten agents together, and we've gotten book deals together, and you know, I'm in the Toronto writers group, and like so many of us had books come out this year in 2021, which was like super wild. Because, you know, there was a point in our group where like one of us had an agent, and we were like so in awe. We were like, oh my gosh, an agent. And
so
then,
special.
you know, right?
I love that.
Is that part of the reason why you started your YouTube channel? When did that kind of come into play for you?
So my YouTube channel, I started watching YouTube videos. I feel like it was around the time that I was going on submission, because I had become this like submission monster. I like had to learn as much as possible about going on submission, because in the back of my mind, I knew I couldn't control anything, but I thought if I like listened to so many podcasts and watched so many YouTube videos that would change something. And so I started watching a lot of YouTube videos. I was watching like Alexa Dunn's videos.
Love her.
And I'm fully blanking right now, but anyway, I was watching a lot of YouTubers, and seeing author tubers and being like, oh, like maybe that was something I would want to do. And at the time, the author tube community was very much about like giving advice. And so I was like, I feel like I gotta like wait until I have like a book deal or something, or people are gonna be like, why are you trying to give people advice? What do you know? And I was like scared. I was really scared of like backlash. So I was like, I'll just like wait. And so I waited until I had a book deal, and then I was like, okay, I'm not allowed to tell anyone, but now I'll start doing the channel stuff. And then of course, thankfully, YouTube evolved into AuthorTube. That section evolved into being much more about people sharing different aspects of their individual journeys, which is great because it opened it up to more people. You didn't have to like be an expert and sit down and tell people advice. You could just sit down and like tell people about yourself and tell people about your writing and your journey. But I had started the YouTube videos because I really wanted to help share what I had learned and to share that knowledge, because like I was so obsessed with those videos, the like small amount of videos I could find about submission and things like that. And so I wanted to be able to add to that and kind of help people out when they were in similar situation and really wanting to find that sort of information. And then I also started, you know, adding in more about my journey, and that also became an aspect of it, sharing my experiences and, you know, being able to also look back on them, which is really, it's wild to look back on like videos I made and see me working on stuff in the past, in particular for BUTCHERBIRDS, which is my 2023 novel. I started writing that when I was on YouTube, and I like made this playlist of every time I had talked about working on it. And it was wild for me to watch back those videos and to see the progression of me like working on a story, because I feel like when you're finished, you like have such rose-colored glasses sometimes about it. You're like, well, it was hard, but you know, it wasn't that bad. And then I can look back on videos where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like videos in which, you know, because the main character is really a lover of plants. And I was like, I don't know anything about plants. I'm going to learn some things. Versus like now I'm like obsessed with plants. I have so many plants. So yeah, it's really cool also to see that progression. So a mix of that, definitely seeing my journey, but also being able to provide experiences that I've had and hope that it's helpful to other people, and that they kind of aren't like, I'm the only person that's ever experienced this. You could feel like, no, somebody else has experienced it. And then also information about traditional publishing that might not be on YouTube. There's a very large self-publishing community on YouTube, but there's a smaller traditional publishing community on YouTube. So I thought it would be fun to kind of add that experience.
Yeah. I'm happy you did, because I freaking love watching you. Like, I love your channel. You're so down to earth, and like the things, your knowledge, everything is just like spot on. And no, like, and each kind of step of the way, I will stalk every YouTube, like every video about whatever I'm going through, you know? So it was like, when I was querying, I watched everything about querying. And I think a lot of it is just to get your mind off of the like craziness. And so like when I went on submission, like I literally like scoured through the internet. There's not as much stuff I've noticed like about submission as there is about querying. And so like I dug deep. But it's like, you know, it's so helpful to have, and you feel a little bit less alone, you know. It's just like getting to hear your experience and, you know, just other authors. I think it's so valuable, and there's like never too many, you know, like
because you don't know who's going to come into touch with yours. And it's a lot of why I wanted to start up the podcast for like the younger version of me who felt like, because there's no curriculum for publishing, right? There's no like set rules. Like you walk into a business or you walk into university and there's like, this is what you must do to get here, and this is who you must, you know. With publishing, it is a bit like people tell you, you just need to write, but it's not really true at all. In my opinion, there's just so many elements like networking, you know, like make sure you're reading current. Like even when I just think about when I started writing, what was the last thing I had read? Like Tales of Narnia or something, you know, like something from my childhood. I had not read anything recent. And it's not about writing to market or trying to tailor your writing some way. It's just about keeping up with what's actually going. If you want to get your book in the hands of current readers, you need to be current. Like you can't be writing Tales of Narnia Volume 9, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's for all of us that like thought of a dystopian idea, right? And then like we were like, yeah, this is like, I read the Hunger Games and now I'm gonna write a dystopia. And then publishing was like, lol, no.
Yeah. So many dystopians, so many. Like, but for a while I was like a dystopian whore. Like I could not get enough of dystopian. And that makes me think of your book because it's the opposite. Well, I guess dystopian could be future, right? I guess that could be, I guess it is the future, but like messed up future. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked with my thoughts. Let's get to your book because it's based in the near future, which I thought was so fun and like refreshing. I can't think of like a book recently that I've read that is anything like that.
No, me neither.
And it was so creative. What was your like inspiration to go there?
Yeah, so the near future bit is the most off the cuff, and I always feel sad when people are like, well, how did you come up with this? And I'm like, I thought it would be fun. Like, that's it. I was like, I'm gonna write a story about a family of Black witches. You know, I was homesick at the time for Toronto, so I knew it was gonna be set in Toronto. And I kept having this idea about like, what about a family of Black witches? Like that would be really fun. And you know, in media, representations of Black witches hadn't been great for me. Like American Horror Story is one of my favorite television shows, and like I know people love that Coven season, but the Black witches in Coven are not it. I just felt like it was a terrible representation, and I felt like they were trying, but it was still offensive. So I was just kind of like, well, that's not really how I would love to see that represented. And so I thought I'm gonna do this family of Black witches. You know, I grew up in a really large family, large blended extended family. And I thought it would be really cool to do that. And then while I was kind of ideating on that, and I was like, I'm gonna have this family, I was like, what if I said it in the future? And I was like, not too far though. I don't want it to be too wild. I was like, just like a little bit in the future. And for me, that's fun too, because it's an interesting way to play with certain things because you're thinking about what things are going to be looking like in a much closer time period. And so things aren't going to be like super radically different than what we have now, but they're going to be different in key ways. For me, especially, like technology to me moves way faster than social change ever moves. And so you have this world in which the technology is like super, like much farther advanced, but the societal issues, the social issues, those are still like a little bit better, but not super great. And to me, it was fun to be able to explore that and to talk about that. And then I ended up blending it with the past because I made an ancestral magic system. And then it was several generations. So it was thinking about the past generations that come before us, and also this future present. And meanwhile, you're still getting our time because Voya, who's the main character, her grandmother, is really like our age or like my age. And so like it's interesting because she's like the representation of this time in the book. And so you're still getting that generation of like, okay, like this is the past and then this is kind of our time. And then Voya, who's the one who is living in the future, which is her present. And getting to see the differences between those characters and the characters that are representative of those times and how they respond to obstacles and how they respond to different things. And I just feel like that's so fascinating and interesting. And I really love being able to do that. But at the time, I just thought future is fun and I like sci-fi. So that's how that ended up
I
going
love
in there.
that. So isn't that the best way to write, that an idea just delights you and you just go for it? I think those are the ideas we should always chase.
Yeah, exactly.
And why
I'm seeing
not?
that we're getting the countdown for 6 minutes.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the book that you, was it the book you originally subbed into Pitch Wars that was problematic? Did you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I can. I can totally talk about that.
I'm curious.
Yeah, so I had, for whatever reason, I had decided, I think it's, I read a book in middle school, or we were read a book by Eric Walters, and it was called Rebound. And it was about a teenager, and he was in a wheelchair, and he like played wheelchair basketball, and they like took us to the rec center, and we got to play wheelchair basketball. And I was like, this is so cool. And it just stuck in my mind. And so I decided that for whatever reason, I was the one to write this fantasy book about a character in a wheelchair, and he like did like stunts like in the skate park, like that was his whole thing. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm the one to tell this story. But I put in a lot of problematic elements. Some of the earlier drafts was like he was quote unquote cured, which is not great. I learned was not great. And then I swapped that, and that didn't happen anymore. But it was just, I felt very much like I was totally writing out of my lane, and I was trying to fill what I saw was a hole in fantasy, but I didn't need to be the one filling it. There are plenty of disabled writers able to write their own stories who should be able to. And so I ended up like, thankfully, in one of the mentorship contests, I think it was AMM, one of the mentors was like, this kind of seems problematic. And at that point, I think I was like a year and a half into working on the book, and I'd kind of been getting that feeling because from the start, I've been trying to follow disabled creators and learn more about disabilities and that sort of thing. And I was like listening to the rhetoric, and I was like, I think my book is problematic. And when that mentor had said it, I was like, yep, exactly, confirmed. And it wasn't really until I like failed at querying, like I maxed out at 50 queries, and I was like, well, I have to shelve this. And I think that was really when it sunk in hindsight, when I was no longer emotionally attached to the story, where I was like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. That wasn't for you. Nobody needed that from you. And I was like, I'm glad nobody signed me on that book. We didn't go on submission with it, because I would be so mortified to just be like, wow, I was super ignorant about this. But I shared that on my YouTube channel, and I shared it because I think it happens to a lot of people.
Yes.
And I think when people are called out for problematic work, rightfully, I think it can be really easy to like get defensive and hide and like want to like scrub ever having anything to do with that. But I think a lot of people do that. Like, yeah, people aren't born woke, and we learn
it's a journey. We're not
do better
born knowing everything. And I love that you shared that, because I think it's so relevant to everyone. Very few people are born into a perfectly adjusted, woke environment, right? It's like we all have to make these fuck ups and learn along the way, and realize we're not the ones to write this, realize where we sit in the industry. And yeah, I think that's very enlightening and something that should get more airtime. People talking about these experiences where they realized why it wasn't working. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was happy to share, and I hope that like other people saw it and were like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not the only person doing this. And you know, I'd had my period where I was like, I'm gonna scrub all of the tweets I submitted for PitMat and SFF with this, so no one will ever know that I messed up and I wasn't always perfect. But then I was like, but who is? Nobody
exactly
is perfect. Like, what matters is learning and doing better and understanding and like going forward with that. And that's what people always say they want people to do, is to learn and do better. So learn and do better. And, I really wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. And then just coming at it with a humble heart and spirit, I think is always the way to be. It's not, thinking you're above everybody else and, well, whatever, this is the book I'm going to do. That's not the way to be. And I love that you're transparent about everything, because, it just makes everybody feel better. Like, okay, she's done it, we've all done it, and we've learned. And I love that you make that feel normal, because it is normal. It's freaking normal. So I see we're running out of time.
I can't believe it.
I know.
Once again, our time has just flown by having you on. And yeah, we're so grateful that you could join us today for this episode. And drop so many wisdomous nuggets that I know are going to help a lot of people on their journeys as writers. So I encourage all our listeners to go look up Liselle's YouTube channel because it is fire. Her book is fire. Bloodlike Magic right here. Everybody, if you do not already have this on your Christmas wish list, put it on now. Add it to your basket. Add it to your Goodreads. And then you've got another book coming out next year.
Yes. Bloodlike Fate, the sequel to Bloodlike Magic, is coming out August 9th, 2022. That one will be wintry and stuff. So if you prepare with the holidays now with the first book, you can enjoy the wintry vibes next year.
Amazing.
I'm here for it. I am ready. We'll have to have you on and boost the next book.
Yes,
yeah, for sure.
We'll get some promo happening there. So before it cuts us off, goodbye and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for the writing community, honestly.
Yeah.
You are a light in the community.
Thanks so much.
So, the incredible, the wisdomous. Not a real word, is it? Wisdom.
It is now.
It is now. Liselle. We were so lucky to get her on the show. And I just feel like a lot of what she talked about is stuff that a lot of us think about, you know, like even about, especially writing problematic books. We've all been there, you know, like I know I was just saying before that some of my early Gobsmacked scripts, there's stuff in there that you don't even, when you originally write it, you don't think about it being problematic because you just grew up hearing like they screamed like a girl. That's something we grew up hearing without even thinking about how problematic that is in so many ways, you know? And I actually went back and revised those early scripts from years ago now because, and you go back and you feel such shame about it. But the thing is, when we grow up in these environments and you grow up hearing all that as a kid, you have to unlearn it. When something's been learned as just completely normal, as just like your general community lingo, what people say, it's really hard to even understand that it's bad because it's said so nonchalantly, like it's non-problematic, but it is problematic. So I think it's great to have these conversations where we just talk about the fact that we've all been there and there's nothing shameful about it, actually. We just have to do better. And like when you learn you've done something like that, check yourself, write it better, write it out. And that's all we can do, you know?
Honestly, absolutely. And I think it, you know, you talking about it more and openly like this and with Liselle, like it just makes you feel a little less like shameful, you know, a little less like hiding in the darkness, like thinking of all the things you've said and done. You know, when you put a little light on it and you're able to just kind of expose it for what it is and learn, like you said, and just grow from it, like it's not as like a gross, like shameful feeling. And I think shining the light on it a little bit more and being allowed to, you know, be like, hey, this is, you know, I obviously grew up like this. I didn't need to. I'm learning, you know, I think, and having the grace of just being like, yeah, I messed up, you know, and then having your community there to be like, we all have, you know, none of us woke up perfect. Thank goodness. Besides you, Mel.
Wow, I could not be more far from perfect.
But I love talking with you, Mel, though, so much. Like even when I feel kind of down sometimes, or like I'm feeling like weird about a project or like things in life, I know I could just like shoot that to you and you're like, you know, life is but a journey.
You're gonna make me emotional.
But it does. And even today when we were talking in their group chat with Court and Para, but what did you say? Court and I were both like, damn, Mel. Oh, it was about the life is like a carnival. Can say that again? Say what you told us.
What What did I say?
Let me
You're
look
both
up.
putting pressure on yourselves to work right now. And I said a lot is happening right now. And I
Yes,
said you wouldn't take your laptop into the carnival and try to write.
that's it.
So
That is what you
right
said.
now it's like a carnival is happening in your life, especially with like end of year holidays and stuff, that no one's going to expect you to be productive right now. So you should just give yourself the time off and not feel guilty about it.
That's it. That's the goods right
Do you know
there.
the only reason I think of these things is because I'm such an overthinker myself. So I've already had to console myself a million times.
Well, your work is helping me, so I appreciate it.
I'm glad. It's the constant monologue in my head.
I know that thing is going. Mine goes constantly too.
Yes.
I mean, I guess that's why we're storytellers, because we've just been making up stories in our head all our lives.
I think you're right. You know, like every now and then we'll be sitting doing something and I'll just say something out of the blue and my husband will just look at me and he'll be like, now he's like, I can't even start to imagine what made you think of that right now or where that came from. And I think it's just our abstract minds are like,
yes.
choo, choo. But sometimes it works. Sometimes you have a carnival metaphor that your friends like. I'm glad because you're that for me too. And I'm glad that we can all encourage each other on this journey because it's tough. And at different points, it's stressful. But I think every part of it is like, it's like Liselle was saying, like it's uncertain. Like when she was out on sub, how she made her YouTube channel because, well, she was thinking about it then. It's kind of like why we made the pod when Pitch Wars ended and we were just like, we need something that we can like control because a lot in the industry is out of your control. The timing, the yeses, the nos, whatever's happening, like it's not always in your control. But the one thing you can always control is your craft. Felt like I was going on a negative downtrend, so just bringing it back up.
Bring some positivity in here.
And always control your craft. And I can't think of the exact quote now, but it's like, as long as you're consistently working hard. The guy who did the quote, he's like, I have a lot of friends who have lovely careers in the industry, and the thing they all share in common is they just consistently work hard. I find the harder I work, the luckier I get. That kind of,
that's good.
And I think it's so true. Like you can't always control it, but I think as long as you're consistently learning, leveling up, meeting the right friends and challenging yourself, that good things will come.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Melanie, coming with the heat.
I just soapboxed a little bit there.
But it's something we all need to hear. And it's true. Like, and I think that is encouraging to know, like, all this hard work that you're putting in, you might not necessarily see something right now, but you just keep working and the good things will come because you're working, you know, you're leveling up, like you said, and every little thing you do, reading books on craft, talking with your friends, critiquing. One of my things that I learn a lot from is like critiquing or like beta reading, you know, other people's work, you know, because it kind of helps, you're helping them with their process and the things that you're kind of like instilling into what maybe is missing in their work, you know, you could put that into your own work. And so I think just all of it, all the things that you're working, and it's all gonna produce something good.
Yeah. And I think because you're disconnected from, like, in a way, from the beta stuff that you are reading, it's when you've written stuff, it can be hard to see the problematic, I shouldn't use that word now, it draws us back to the other. It can be hard to see what needs to be fixed because you wrote it. And I feel like I was listening to, I'm doing the Lisa Cron Story Genius.
Oh yeah, I meant to do that. I need to do that.
On sale for $24 right now. I sound like a promo. On sale for $24. Story Genius.
I know, but I need to because she is a genius.
A genius, you know? And she explained something important about having like needing to know your backstory. I've gone on a tangent now. I can't remember the original point, but this is important too. Needing to know the backstory before you start, because she said if you don't have that backstory influences everything your character is going to do. And if you don't have it up front, you can't reverse engineer it, she was saying. So I am loving doing a lot of what she talks about is kind of the areas I feel I'm lacking in my writing, like the kind of character arc stuff, the strengthening of the characters. So I'm doing that alongside drafting Beyond Love. And she's just, everything she says is pure fire. I
love it.
Come do it with me, because seriously, it's so freaking good. It's like as good as Save the Cat at least. It's at that level of like, it's going to change how I write for good.
Okay. So is it like on YouTube is what you're like, you get access to it or something?
Yeah. So you get like, there's like 12 classes or something. Just, it's like a lecture.
I need to. Okay.
Yeah. How did we get onto that originally? I had a point.
I couldn't tell you, but I'm glad we got here because it reminded me to get her YouTube.
No, seriously, everyone, it's going to change your life, that course. And yeah, it's stuff I wish I found earlier, but I wonder if I found it earlier, if I would have been ready to receive it. You know, sometimes you find things on your writing journey and you're like, oh, if only I found this like 3 years ago, I would have been writing much more polished work. But then I wonder if I found it 3 years ago, I'm not sure I would have known what to do with it. Whereas now I'm kind of like, oh, this is exactly what I need to make the writing sing.
Oh, yes. Sing it. I love it. Yeah. No, all in our own little journeys. And like you said, sometimes you're just not ready to hear it. And so it always has a funny way of weaseling its way back in and then giving it to you when you need it.
Exactly.
Thank goodness.
Just part of
magic.
The journey.
Yes, it is. Part of the magic.
So we're kind of signing off for the end of the year, although this is going to drop January.
Yeah, this is our January episode, I guess.
Yeah, I might drop it early potentially.
Okay. Yeah, whatever the heck you want to do. Yeah, but how weird is that? This is kind of like our end of the year episode. I'm
so proud of us.
I too. How do we do this?
And it was kind of cool chatting to Liselle specifically, because she has a channel that she's been obviously doing for years now, that started out as a little fledgling idea. And it made me think, you know, like one day we might have hundreds of episodes stocked up in the bank, and she's got like 5,000 subscribers. So listeners, just saying, please subscribe. We've got like 20 or something right now.
Woo!
Yeah, but 20 is good. I'm for every one of them. But
that's amazing.
It is amazing. But to our listeners, thank you as always for tuning in and listening and joining our community. And
yes, wow. And let's just hope this next year brings everybody the best of luck. Let's hope this new year coming is just going to be full of great things.
I feel good about it. I feel good about it. I'm querying Soul Swap now, and it was kind of a weird time to start querying because everything's shutting down for the end of the year, which I knew, but it's kind of good because I'm like, well, if it's all no's now, mentally, I'm okay with that. I'm like, because in January, a whole bunch of agents are going to open up that were not available before. So then I can I feel like things have been like quite simmery with all the COVID stuff. And I have this good feeling about 2022. It's a good number.
I like it.
It's going to happen in 2022.
I'm ready for it. Let's go. Bring it in. I'm
Yeah.
doing the manifesting dance here. I have my manifest that shit candle.
It's still
getting
got
low.
juice in it.
Still. I only use it for like special occasions because I'm
bless.
nervous. Yeah, but I'll have to get myself another one because it be working,
She's
girl.
incredible. Her shop's going off, that chick.
That's cool. I love
Yeah.
that. I mean, she does a great job. So I wish I could tell you what she's called.
It's Apothelina.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you
No,
can
she's
tell
cool.
her.
She's had this whole journey to like getting there and like making these candles. Like it's all very, very pub persuasion ethos, you know, finding her
Yes.
dream job. And she's super cool. Her
Aw.
candles are cool. So
Love it.
yeah.
I love it. So listeners, make sure to follow Liselle. I'm trying to see what exactly her like. I think she's just Liselle Sambury. So LISELLESAMBURY, Liselle Sambury.
Yeah.
You can follow her on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and online. She has her own website, Liselle Sambury. So definitely give her a follow everywhere because her book is fantastic. She's got another one coming out and another one. So the woman is going places. She's already at places, but she's going even more places.
I agree. So go and add her books.
Yes. Melanie, why don't you tell our listeners where you can be found?
I can be found at Melanie_Schubert_writer on Instagram. And Angela?
Yes. Where am I? I'm Angela Montoya Writes on Instagram, on TikTok. And that's where I live on Instagram. We both do. So we're there.
We're there. Come find us. Come join the conversation, join the community. And we look forward to another year with you all in 2022.
Cheers to 2022.
Cheers.
May you please just treat us well.
Treat us kindly, 2022. Cheers.
We've earned
that.